Well, hello again, and welcome to one more sequence of Wise World English. Well, and today we're gonna practice some grammar again, as usual. We're gonna practice engaging in conversations. You know what? To engage in conversations, something very important is to know how to make questions, and this is something that is very difficult for many people that are learning, well, especially English. So we're going to practice engaging in conversations using questions about the subject and questions about the predicate. So there are two different kinds of questions about the subject and about the predicate. Aha. And here we go. Well, first of all, we need to recognize the subject, no, in a sentence, right? So very fast, you tell me what the subject is. In number one, the subject would be, what about the second sentence? What about the third sentence? What about the next sentence? The subject is always before the verb, of course, right? So those are the subjects, right? And if you can recognize the subjects, we can make questions, right? Appropriate questions for each subject, right? For example, the first sentence, in the first sentence, the subject is Mary. So what would be an appropriate question for Mary? Who? What? Where? The correct question would be who, obviously, right? In the second sentence, we can see the subject. The subject is the new app. What would be the question for that? The question would be what? Or you can also say which app, right? What about the next sentence? The next sentence, we have the black cat. What would be the question for the black cat? The question would be which cat, right? Which cat? The black cat, right? And finally, for the children, right? What would be the question for the children? The question would be who, right? So we recognize the subject in all the sentences, right? That's the subject. We identify the questions. So to make questions about the subject is actually very simple. It's super easy because the only thing we have to do is replace the subject for a question word like who, what, or, right? Depending, no? Okay. For example, who lives in Mexico? What was the second question? Do you remember? What helps you control your diet? The new app. Do you remember the next question? Which cat slept on the couch? The black cat, right? And finally, the last one, the children. Who always talks to mom, right? So that's it, right? So as you can see, questions about the subject are very easy, very simple, all right? So that's a summary, right, of all the questions. If you want, you can pause the video, take a photo, or whatever you feel comfortable with. All right, so those are the questions, right? As you can see, no, Mary is replaced by who, the new app with what, and so on. And you have the questions about the subject, right? So once again, we identify the subject, right? Yes, we identify the subject, and right, and we have a question, right? We just replace the word, the subject, in this case Mary, by the question, in this case the question who, and we have a question. Who lives in Mexico? Mary, right? But of course we need practice, right? Something very important when you learn a language, actually when you learn anything in life, one thing is to understand and another thing is to practice, and then you know something very well. So let's practice, right? Different questions: who, what, how many, etc., 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 right? So these are the questions. I mean, these are the sentences, right? And of course, the first step is to identify the subject. So those are the subjects. Look at that. Mary. Now, what would be the question for Mary? What would be the question for 10 people? What would be the question for the TV? And finally, what would be the question for the black laptop? Okay, so this is a good moment to stop your video and write your questions in a piece of paper, in a Word document, wherever you prefer. And then maybe it will be a good idea for you to compare your questions with a friend or somebody to double check that you have the correct questions. So I hope you pause the video and you practice the questions about the subject. Remember, questions about the subject are very easy, very simple, as we saw. But now we're gonna go and talk about questions about the predicate. Yeah, those are not so easy. Well, especially for people, I don't know. In my experience, it's for people that speak Spanish. I don't know if people from other languages have problems, but anyway, let's get to this. So for example, look at the question. I play on weekends. If I say on weekends, what is the question that comes to your mind? Is it what? No, because the answer is on weekends. What is the question? The question would be when. When. Now, how? Now, this is a moment when I need you to pause the video again and think about what the question would be. Pause the video, make the question, write the question on a piece of paper. Let's see. Okay. Well, I'm pretty sure that some of you might have gotten this question. For example, when play tennis, or when play you tennis, or when play tennis you. I don't know. These are typical questions that sometimes I see people writing in English, especially for people that speak Spanish, because these questions, actually, if you think about it in Spanish, these questions are completely correct. They say, oh, those are the questions. But you know what? Actually, in English, all these questions are not correct. So we have to eliminate all these questions. No, they're not correct. Ooh. So we eliminate all these questions. They're not correct. Because in English, to write questions about the predicate, it requires an interesting structure. That is, number one, you need the auxiliary. Okay, we will talk about that in a moment. Then you need a subject, and then you need a verb. Okay, and that's a technique that I like to call this technique the 1, 2, 3. All right, that is a correct question. Can you compare that question with a question you wrote in the paper? If you have that question, good job, so you're more prepared. But if you made a mistake, this is a time for us to review. So number one is the auxiliary. What is the auxiliary? Look at that. The arrow is pointing at the auxiliary. The auxiliary is do. Right? What is the subject? The subject is you. What is the verb? Exactly. The verb is play. Right? So the correct question is, when do you play tennis? On weekends. Right? The answer is on weekends. Notice that the answer is in the predicate, not in the subject. Okay, so we need this 1, 2, 3. So next time you write a question about the predicate, think about this 1, 2, 3, and check your answers. I mean, check your question. Sorry, check the question, check what you have, and check that you have the correct structure. You must see this 1, 2, 3, the auxiliary, subject, and verb. If not, the question is not correct in English. All right, let's move on to more practice. Oh, yes, I forgot that. Oh, right. Some of you might be like, wow, no. For some of you, this might be easy, or for some of you, it might be complicated. All right. And something to keep in mind is that we are practicing these questions about the predicate, and I show you this little rule of the 1, 2, 3, but this little rule doesn't apply for the verb to be. The verb to be is a little different. All right, so we eliminate the verb to be. Okay, no, the verb to be, no. All right, so we need auxiliaries. We're actually practicing questions in simple present and simple past. That's what we're practicing right now. And well, the auxiliaries that we need to include in the questions, remember, they are for simple present, do or does, right? And for the simple past, obviously the auxiliary would be did, right? Okay, and well, actually, to remember that we need these auxiliaries, that's pretty easy. That's not difficult to remember, right? But sometimes when we practice, we forget, or when we speak, we forget to use the auxiliaries, and that's why we are doing this little practice. So now, as you can see, we have some questions, and the answers are in the predicate. Okay, for example, number one, we have in Mexico. What is the question that you need? Where? Look at the second one. What is the question that you need? What? Look at the next one. On the couch, on the sofa. What is the question that you need? Where? And look at the last one. What is the question that you need? Who? Okay, but if you want, and this is a moment when we are about to pause the video. Okay, pause the video, pause the video, pause the video. Okay, this is a moment when in a moment I would say pause the video, because I want you to think about the complete question. But if you want to write questions, remember, this is the predicate. The answers are in the predicate. So you need to follow the 1, 2, 3, what we talked about before. We talked about this before. The 1, 2, 3 is the auxiliary, the subject, and the verb, right? In this case, it's simple present, auxiliary do, subject you, verb play. So you need when, what time, whatever question, when, where, who, etc. And then next to that you need do, who do, when do, okay, or does, or if it's simple past, did, when did, what did, etc., etc. If you don't have that auxiliary, the questions are not correct. All right. Okay, the 1, 2, 3. I should practice before doing these videos. Sorry. All right. So this is a moment. Pause the video. Pause the video. All right. And in a piece of paper, in a Word document, write the questions. Write the questions, okay? And let's see how it goes. Okay, well, I hope you pause the video, and now we're going to check the answers. All right. Remember that these are questions about the predicate, and you need the 1, 2, 3, right? So the first question would be, what would be the first question? In Mexico, where does Mary live? That's the correct question, right? And if you look at the question, you will see the 1, 2, 3 method that we talked about. No, right? Because, for example, the auxiliary, what is the auxiliary? The auxiliary is does, right? Does. The subject, what is the subject? The subject is Mary. What is the verb? The verb is live. So you see, you have the 1, 2, 3, the 3 elements of a correct question about the predicate, right? What is the next question? The next question is, as the next question, what does the new app do, right? What is the next question? On the couch. The answer, on the couch. Next question would be, where did the black cat sleep, right? And the last question, with the children, right? What would be the question? The question would be, who do the children always talk to, right? Okay, if you have different questions, look at the questions. Are they similar to the questions that you wrote in your paper, or are they different? If they are different, maybe it's a good moment to pause the video for a moment, talk to somebody, discuss, exchange ideas, or if you want, you can write comments there, no? And that would be interesting, right, for your learning. Okay, so now moving on. So we're finishing with questions about the predicate, and of course, we need practice. I study in the living room, Jenny plays in the park, George lives near your house, I saw 20 people there, my sister studies in the morning, I study with my friend. Okay, so now remember, these are questions about the predicate. Can you make these questions? Good luck. All right, and we are about to finish. And can you follow me with more questions about the predicate? This is the moment when we finish the video. Thank you for watching. Okay, we're gonna finish. Okay, so let me show you. Oh, look at that. That's a photo of my first trip to the United States some years ago. Look at the hair. Oh my God, I have more hair, here. All right, so do you know where I went? No, it's not Legoland. No. Okay, I went to Disney World, right? Many years ago. Okay, do you know who was with me? Do you know who I went with? Of course, I went with, you can complete the question there, right? I went with my mom, my dad, my sister, and of course, my niece, right? You can see my niece in the photo. All right. Do you know where we stayed? That was a beautiful place. I really recommend it if you have the chance to go someday. we stayed at Coronado Springs Hotel. It's a very nice hotel. All right, look at that. Do you know who we met? Of course, we met Mickey, Daisy, Donald, Pluto, all the principal characters, and of course, you can complete the question. We also met Mike and Zully, obviously, right? No, Monsters Inc., right? And well, that was a very interesting experience, right? Do you know the number of parks? Do you know the number of parks in Disney World? They are like 7, I think, if they are not 8. But I'm pretty sure 7 or more. Okay, I don't know. I went a long time ago, and that park has changed. That little decoration there. Well, that decoration doesn't exist anymore. Well, anyway, thank you very much for watching this video. I hope it was useful for you, and I wish you good luck learning English. Okay, good luck, and I will see you. Thank you for being here with me in Wice World English, and I promise I will see you in future videos. Good luck.